Hello, and welcome to the Masterpiece Ministries podcast, hosted by me, Abbey Burnett. This podcast exists to share stories of the transformation of God's people, his masterpieces. Ephesians 2:10 says, "For we are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus so that we can do the good things he planned for us long ago." My prayer is that you learn more about the love and faithfulness of God through the stories you hear from regular people just like you. Now, let's tune in and listen to this week's story. Enjoy!
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Masterpiece Ministries podcast. I'm your host, Abbey Burnett, and we are so happy that you are here today and tuning in for another great episode. I have an awesome guest that I'm super excited about to have on the podcast today, so we're going to go ahead and introduce him. Say hello to my friend, Josh Price. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing today, Josh?
I'm doing great. I feel like this is an honor, to be on this podcast, especially because, I listen to this podcast, so in some ways it's kind of full circle.
Yeah.
Now I'm talking in it, so it's going to be different when I go back and listen. I'm like, oh, dang, that's me.
Yeah, but you have your own podcast, so you listen to your self-talk all the time.
I do, and I listen to my own podcast like it's not me, too. I'm like, dang, man, I was really talking on that, and I'm like, oh, wait, it's
yeah, you go put it on, and you're like, oh, wait, that's a word.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I was really, and then I'll finish my sentences, too, while I'm talking, so.
Nice, love that for you. Yeah, Josh is the host of another podcast, Grounded. Go check it out on Apple and Spotify and YouTube.
It's also in my Instagram bio. If you don't follow me on Instagram, Josh Price Fit. If you don't do that, go ahead and do that because, why not? Yeah, just do it.
Josh and I we've only known each other for like 2 months.
I'd say it's probably 2 months, but also I think I first met you at the competition that you did in November.
Yeah. So I go to Josh's gym.
Hometown Barbell 5904 Enterprise Court, Frederick, Maryland 21703 301-514-6583. info@hometownbarbell.com if you need to reach me. Carry on.
Yeah, come check us out. And so I did a competition there back in November.
November 4th.
Yeah, November 4th. Wow. Do you remember all the competitions just in your brain?
Yep.
And I'm competing there again in May.
May 18th.
Yep, exactly. So he's the owner of the gym. And so, we've become friends over the last few months. And go ahead and introduce yourself. What do you want to say about yourself? What do you want the people to know?
So, if you didn't know already, like I said, my name is Joshua Price, 27 years old, live in Frederick, Maryland, owner of Hometown Barbell 5904 Enterprise Court. I'm gonna give you the brief rundown. So I feel like I tell my life story a lot. So I'm gonna give you the cliff notes of what I usually tell people.
We're gonna get the story in a minute anyways.
Yeah, for sure. So married, I got 2 kids, 7 and 5. Born in Louisiana, but military dad, moved all over the place. Frederick has been home to me. Moved away when I was 18, came back when I was 24. And then now I started a business in Frederick, so now I'm pretty planted here. And I've had a business for almost 2 years. And that's just a little appetizer.
Just a little taste. Just give them a little taste.
Not the full entree, just the appetizer.
Perfect. Awesome. So you're here to share your story. Before we start, we're going to talk about some gratitude. I find being grateful is super important in life and just keeps us grounded.
Absolutely.
You like that? No so do you want to go ahead and start? What's something that you've been grateful for this week or today or just something recently?
So 2 things. Number 1, it's Good Friday.
Yes.
So I'm very grateful, for my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And on a more recent basis, I'm just grateful for just, honestly, I know it might sound a little cliche, but just life, health, and strength. Just bare bones, just grateful for that
world
truthfully.
That's awesome. I think for me, I agree. This morning and I posted about this on my Instagram today, but I was reading in my Bible about Good Friday and Jesus' crucifixion and things like that. And so anyways, when he dies and talks about the veil being torn, and so that we're not separated from God anymore. It used to be that, only high Jewish priests could go access the presence of God, but when Jesus died, the veil was torn. Now average people, just like us, can access God directly. We don't have to go through anybody. So I'm just thankful for that today. And then also on a more general note as well, last year I really hated my job. I'm a teacher and I was really thinking about quitting, I was like actively applying to other jobs and things like that. And then through a long series of events, got a new position at my job, and I am loving it. And so it's just like really nice to finally be in like a place where I don't have to stress about work and if I'm not happy or whatever. And I'm on spring break now. So,
big
can't nothing get me down, you know?
W's.
Yeah, we love it. So, all right, let's get into your story. Where do you want to start?
So, I think just, where it starts is I was always raised in church, pretty much since I was a kid. As much as I can remember, I've lived in a very like strict household with two amazing Christian parents who devoted a lot of time and energy into raising me up in, believing in God and understanding the Bible. And so much to the point to where like, to me, even when I understood like being a Christian and what it meant, I feel like there was still a lot that I had to understand on like the why, because to me it was like being a Christian was like breathing or like eating or like it was just so normal. It was part of your routine. Exactly. It was so normal in my household. We went to church on Sundays. We went to church on Wednesdays. We went to church Sunday nights. So like church was just such an everyday part. And then also to like my family, every night, like we would have like a devotion as a family, literally that's awesome. 6 days a week. The only day we didn't was Sunday because we were in church all day. Sorry, Mom.
Already devoting your life.
Yeah, literally. So having that, like, and also too is that, growing up, I couldn't, if there was sports on Sundays, like I wasn't allowed to play. If there was anything happening on Sunday, like Sunday was the Sabbath, like it was truly like we weren't doing anything. Like we were barely allowed to watch football on Sunday, just like the only thing that we were even allowed to do. So I grew up in like that type of atmosphere. Like church was everything, and reading the Bible and all, like even before school, like my mom, she would sit down, read before school. Like it was like instilled in us almost to the point of, in some ways, like as I got older, not of resentment, but as I got older and as some of my, outside influences start to get in, I would almost, it felt like a chore to where as I was getting older, I was like, okay, I got this devotions before school and then I got this devotions before
less
bed.
of like a spiritual thing, but more of just like a scheduled routine, like obligations to keep. And
that's where I feel like that's where it becomes more of religion than belief, which I'll touch on a little bit. But I feel like for me, as I got to, especially like through middle school and then through high school, and then which I kind of briefly said earlier in my introduction, is I moved around a lot, like in my elementary school years, and then once I got to middle school is when I became a little bit more concrete in the area of Frederick, to where my dad retired from the military and we stayed in Frederick. And so it was just a lot, like in my 1st through 5th grade, just like going from like school to school to school to school to school. And then finally getting to Frederick, I feel like we were able to like kind of plant roots and like kind of get ourselves established. But honestly, as I've gotten older and as I've like tried to like understand like what my relationship with God looks like, I truly don't felt like I became a true believer. Not believer, but a true, like what God,
disciple.
Exactly. And like my relationship with God at the time almost felt like it was like my parents through God, not God through me.
Your parents' faith passed down to you rather than a more individual, personal relationship.
And so I personally felt like my relationship with God was just like, okay, I need to make sure like I'm checking all the boxes for my parents so that I can do what I want to do. And I need to make sure I'm kind of pleasing them, but I wasn't necessarily worried about pleasing God. I was just kind of doing what I needed to do just because I was at the house. And then as I've gotten older, or as I got older, like later years in high school, I still always kept a relationship with God in some capacity to the point where I would pray, but not so much on my own. Like me personally, I felt like my relationship with God and the relationship with God in general is one-on-one, right? And so I can't rely on you to talk to God on my behalf. Yeah, sure, you could pray for me, all that, but like I need to establish my own relationship with God. And that's something I feel like I didn't have until I was on my own. And then even when I was on my own, I felt like I kind of distanced myself from God in a way of like, okay, now I'm out of the house, I'm doing my own thing, I'm paying my own bills, I'm doing all this, just joined the military. And I felt like, okay, now I don't have to go to church. Now I don't have to wake up and read my Bible. Now I don't have to read my Bible before sleep. Now all the religious things that I grew up doing and like, can't watch this, can't listen to this. So like, I wouldn't call it a rebellion or a rebellious type of phase, but I would call it like a breather. I feel like I could do what I want. But here's the thing is like, what I learned is, you know, God will let you do what you want because he gives us that free will. But he's like, you know, when something happens, he's not I told you so God, but he's also like, well, you knew better. Because you knew better. And like, I feel like, at least at that time, like I knew the Bible, like the back of my hand to the point where, again, reading it, I mean, front to back to front, a proverb a day, like just instilling it in, spitting out verses like it's like your normal conversation. But again, I had to do that kind of stuff. Like my parents required me to do that. So again, getting into the later years and like being on my own and really needing to kind of reconnect that relationship with God. And again, I preface this with not saying I was out in the streets,
wilding out,
doing something crazy. Like I've always been a very like,
yeah, you don't strike me as somebody who would be.
No, that's not. That's not me. That's not me. I think I'm more so of like for example, I didn't even have, and this is just context, but I didn't even have like my first sip of alcohol until I was like, how old was I? I think I might have been like, I was already like well into my 20s when I had my first sip of alcohol.
Wow.
To this day, I still have never been like drunk. I've never smoked weed, any of that stuff. So I'm saying like, I distance myself from God, not to get in the streets, but just to like not feel guilt about watching Game of Thrones or just whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was like just a lot that I feel like I was able to do now that I was out of the house. But in that same standpoint, that's where I felt like I needed God the most. So I feel like I got baptized at 8 years old. I feel like I became a Christian at 8 on paper, but I feel like I didn't truly believe and need and understand and want God until I was probably 21, 22, which is about 5 years ago. I'm 27. And that's when I feel like my relationship with God really like sprouted and turned into something much, much deeper. And obviously, as you know, is still an everyday, work in progress. But I feel like that's when I truly found God in my life, when I was truly on my own.
Yeah. So what your story makes me think of is like when you were younger. Well, first of all, I like how you said I was a Christian on paper when you were kind of 8 years old, but that it transformed and became your own as you got older. So it's like, yes, you definitely had I think some people can think like, if I was a kid and I believed in God as a kid, but then I got older and I like messed around or I didn't follow God's plan or whatever, like, was I ever really saved? And it's like, if you truly believe that when you were young and like obviously your parents instilled that in you, it's like not a question of if you were a believer, but I think there's a difference between being a believer and being a disciple and being like a follower of God versus like a fan, right? Or maybe just somebody who's like in the realm but not actually devoted. And so when I hear your story talking about your parents had kind of instilled like disciplines in you, right? Like spiritual disciplines that they were modeling for you and that you were a part of and that your environment provided for you. But then when you got older, it became more of like are you going to be disciplined now? And like, I think at first, like there's a verse in the Bible that says like no discipline in Hebrews. No discipline is like enjoyable at the time, but like yields fruit and is good for you. And so I think like when I went to college too, it was the same thing. Like I grew up in a very Christian household. My parents did a great job raising me, et cetera, et cetera. But then I got to college and I was like, I don't want to have to, like, for the first time I can choose for myself whether I want to go or not. And now I did kind of go the other side, but
episode 1, I remember how I was
he was there. He was there.
She was wilding out.
Yeah, I was wilding out, but we're not anymore. But it makes me think of discipline. Discipline is just like a really big topic in my life, and like I kind of pride myself on being a disciplined person, and I have a feeling you do as well. What are some of those disciplines that you implement in yourself as an adult to maintain that relationship, and how do you keep it from becoming religion and practice versus disciplining yourself in the way of God.
Right. So I feel like someone told me a while ago, and I don't remember exactly who it was. It could have been a pastor, it could have been a friend, but they were basically saying like the relationship you have with God is like, you know, a father, a friend. It's intimate. You know, it's something that you can always. It's always there, right? And I feel like a lot of people, myself included at times, like treat God as like this genie or like this like, you know, I know in like the Old Testament talks about like, you know, going into the Holy of Holies and only certain people can even access it. And, you know, you can't be wearing those shoes. And it's just, everything is so like.
Regulations.
Exactly.
Because God's so perfect.
Exactly. Yeah. And so a lot of people I feel like have that feeling now. And for myself, I found myself kind of having that like, well, I can't come before God right now because, you know, I just sinned last night and like I feel like maybe I need like 24 hours of like, cleansing myself, and then I'll talk to him on Tuesday because Monday I don't know what I was doing on Monday. That's how I was doing it. So the second that I realized that like God is a friend, he's a father, he's so many other things where you could just talk to him. Like, it's not like this, like I got to go to this holy room, dim all the lights to 20%, take off every shoe that, you know, put that away, make sure my bed's made and sit in the corner of my bed. You know what I mean? It's not like that to where you could be driving, you could be walking, you could be, so as soon as I established my like everyday relationship with God to where it could be, I could be talking to God and you at the same, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing to where he's in your heart and it's just an open line of communication where you're talking to God, but you're like, doing it almost like subliminal, like you're like thinking about God, or just like almost acting like he's sitting right, that type of vibe, you know what I mean?
Like,
Once I treated it like that and made it just not this like fairy tale, or just made it's realistic, it's real, he's there, he's everywhere. So once I established that, it's a lot easier to like walk in an everyday life to where you're just always talking and walking with God. So it's not, you know, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while, what's going on? It's like, you know what I mean? It's just easy. So making that line of communication a lot easier, I feel like helped a lot in establishing the discipline and just making it so routine because you're always talking to him. So the discipline to me is just like an easy follow-up after that. Yeah,
I always think about it too. It's like, if you ever want to get to know anybody better, like you have to have interactions with them. You have to have conversations with them, and God works the same way. He's not, I mean, it's funny because he like is, and he is like so regal and so much like removed from us because he's so perfect and we can't ever like come to that standard. Like, so there is a reverence, there is like a respect that like, okay, you're much higher than I am and you're much holier than I am. But at the same time, he's a relational God too. And so if we want to get to know our friends better, we have to talk to them. We have to communicate with them. We have to know about them. We have to know their stories. We have to know what they care about or what they don't like and what they do like. And so God works the same way. And I think you bring up a great point, because I think a lot of people who maybe are grown up Christian but aren't like disciples, like kind of said, they think like I have to make this big fanfare if I want to engage with God. And there's like part of that, it's like, okay, a reverence and a respect and a fear of God is healthy, but it keeps them from just having God interwoven in their whole day to day. And this is something I'm trying to get better at too, where it's like, even in the middle of the day, I can be praying. Like, it's not just I wake up early and have my time. And like, I've been kind of bad sometimes about like, I get my 6 a.m., like read, pray, do my journal. All right, on to life, you know what I mean? And then I go 9 hours without even thinking about it. And I'm like, business owner, you got people in and out, people are talking to you all the time, people need you all the time, you have projects going on. So like, it can be very easy to just like forget that still should be a rhythm that's just interwoven through everything in your day. The interactions you have with people, the way that you treat baristas, the way that you talk to people at the grocery store, the way that you talk to your wife or your kids, like it's interwoven through everything. It's not just this like one set aside time throughout your day. What do you think are barriers that people have to engaging with God in the way that you describe? Like, what are the mindsets or what are the lies that people believe when it comes to experiencing God in that personal way? And maybe even speak to, a male perspective, because I'm sure it's a different thought process.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like the first thing that popped into mind as soon as you said that is just noise. Having... Like, to me, I can't hear God if there's outside noise.
Yeah.
Right? So it's funny you said something earlier. So, as you said, how you treat baristas, right?
This man loves his coffee.
She downplayed it. I am an avid
connoisseur?
Coffee enthusiast.
Oh, enthusiast.
Different blends, different roasts, you name it, I'm drinking it, right?
But you're just a black coffee person,
But
right?
there's different roasts though. So that's the thing.
Right. But you're not like lattes, milks, flavors.
So that's the thing, right? So
you just said brown sugar.
if you do a latte, you can do a latte, but you could still make it so where it's like there's nothing else added to it. So like, for example, you can have like a regular latte, but then if you want to add something like, yesterday I got a little oat milk latte, nothing crazy.
We love that.
Too splendid. And then, where was I going? So, avid coffee drinker. I love coffee. How cheap baristas. All right.
Yeah.
Avid coffee drinker. I love coffee. If you didn't know that, I love it. And when I start my day out, I tell myself the first thing I cannot put in my body is coffee. I have to put water in my body.
I am so bad about that. I've tried to be better at it.
First things first is water. You have to put water in your body before anything else. Water. You can't put coffee
Don't tell me that.
in your body. First, it has to be water, and the water you pour in your coffee to make it doesn't count. I'm talking to you and myself.
Water.
It doesn't count because coffee and caffeine just in general will dehydrate you.
Yeah.
So you can't have just coffee. And so for myself, I'm telling myself that as I'm drinking coffee first thing before water. And so I had to understand obviously the health side of it and like why it's important to drink water first before drinking coffee. So I treat it the same way for example, when I first get in my car, the second I get in the morning, or when I get in the car in the morning, how do I want to start my day? Do I want to start with water or coffee? That's how I kind of treat it. Not viewing coffee as dirty, because coffee is a beautiful thing. Thank you, Lord, for bringing coffee. But I treat it more so as like, am I going to listen to Future yelling at 6 a.m.? Or am I going to listen?
Song.
You know what I'm saying?
A good song.
I know, it is, but forgive me. I feel like it's more so of like, if I listen to my morning mindset podcast, I listen to that. I try to listen to that every morning before I do anything else, even sometimes before I check social media, anything like that. There's certain like habits and things that like I have to start the day out with, so that the first thing that's not entering my mind is the outside noise. So for example, and to answer your question, is that all that noise that's around you, whether it's social media yelling in your face, or a friend, or a roommate, or a coworker, or your job, or your dog, whoever is yelling at you first thing, if you are not tuning out some of that noise or putting that noise in its place to where knowing when to turn it on and turn it off, it's going to be very difficult to let God speak to you. If you have all this other stuff yapping, it's going to be hard to, he'll hear his voice. And that's something that I had to learn, is to learn to bring everything else down, let God speak, and get that first. And then you can know what to do with everything else. But again, I've learned that, and kind of like you said, like being a business owner, 5904 Enterprise Court, Hometown Barbell, Frederick, Maryland, 21703. What I've kind of learned in that aspect is that there's a lot of decision making in business. Like, okay, I'm gonna call this contractor or not call this contractor, or I'm gonna take this quote or not this quote, or I'm gonna do this or not do that.
I'm gonna hire this videographer or not this videographer.
I'm gonna hire this videographer, I'm gonna fire this videographer. And so it's like you gotta make choices every day. And so it's kind of like, it's difficult choices, right? But if you're always in prayer, and if God is just in your life, if God is just in your life at all times, then it's much easier to make good decisions if God is always present. If God isn't present and you let that outside noise get in, then you're not going to be able to have that clear mindset when making the decisions.
Well, and you bring up a great point about like what you intake, like, that's the right word, but what you allow into your mind and into your heart matters a lot. Like, and I think a lot of Christians especially underestimate the effects that has on us, and I've underestimated that for a long time. Listen, I'm gonna be real with you for a second. I was considering going to the Drake concert that's tomorrow, Sunday night in Penn State, and then my friend was like, that's Easter Sunday, and I said, oh, you right. I probably shouldn't be going to a Drake concert right after I celebrate Easter. And so like it's hard. That's always, and especially with the gym and music, it's a battle for me. I don't know.
She didn't mean that.
What it's like for that. What did you say?
She didn't mean what? The gym and the music. The gym
no, not your music. My music in the gym. The music that I listen to in the gym.
Her music.
I have felt, well, I don't even know if I ever told you this. On the competition, right before I came, we had to submit song choices and things like that. Mm-hmm. And all during training, I'm gonna really expose myself, and this is just me being honest, I really listen to some Megan Thee Stallion when I'm lifting, right? And I got really convicted right before the meet, because I knew all my friends from church were gonna be coming, and it was like, you can't be playing no Megan Thee Stallion when you're up on the platform because your friends are watching, and your parents will be there, and your church friends will be there, and that's going to be really confusing when you go up there, but you also are on stage at church and you're doing a podcast and you read, you know what I mean? So, and God was like, pick Christian songs, and I was like, yeah, absolutely not. Like, I am not exposing myself like that. But anyways, long story short, I ended up submitting different song choices, and I honestly think Drake got played anyway, which was God telling me, like, he wanted just to see if I was gonna lay it down, you know? He knew he was gonna let me have my little my Drake songs when I was working out, but he wanted to see if I was willing to lay it down and submit to that and not have fear, because I had never really been in this gym before. I'm like, I'm going to be up there in front of a platform and hundreds of people.
Because that was the first time you'd even come.
Yeah, the first time I'd even come, and all these people were going to be watching me, and some song is going to come on that none of these people know and are going to be like, what the heck is she playing? Like, this changed the vibe, you know, whatever. And I was so worried a little bit about how people were going to like perceive me, but then it all worked out in the end, and it was great, and I won. But anyways, it's just, I think people don't care a lot about their influences, and they matter a lot more than we think they do. Like, what you're putting into your mind, what you're watching, what you're listening to, the people, the company that you keep, like, matters a lot, because I feel like the enemy can get into our head really fast. I mean, you listen to some of these things that people are talking about and singing about, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, that's something that I would say and I feel like someone would be lying if they said that as a Christian, you don't struggle with like the outside world music, in the sense of like, especially music. Because to me, it's like, that's something as a Christian, I had a phase where right before the gym opened, before the gym opened, 504 Enterprise Court. Before
start charging you for marketing on this podcast.
Before the gym opened, Hometown Barbell. Before it opened, I was going through a lot of stress and trying to get the gym open and all these inspections and this and that. And I just felt like, I need to get right in this situation with God. And maybe it's not going the way that I want because I'm not doing certain things right. So I was like, all right, from this point on, I'm not listening to any secular music.
Yeah.
I'm just listening to, I'm gonna try Christian rap. I've always kind of told the line. I
have a good
Christian
playlist
rap.
If you want one.
I need it. I've told the line with Christian rap because I felt like, I'm like, sometimes, what are they talking?
It's
like,
corny.
Yeah,
it's
I'm like, what are they
sometimes
talking about? Like, they're not really talking about nothing, because it's like you're trying to like be spiritual and you're rapping about it, and it doesn't sound like it's like coming from anywhere like deep. So yeah, it's just anyways. So I'm listening to it. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, this is me cleansing myself, right? And so, again, everyone's relationship with God is one-on-one.
Sure.
The things that you watch, the things that you do, this and that, it's neither of our place to judge what you're doing, what you're watching, all that. When, again, the relationship with God is one-on-one. So when you're talking to God and you're being vulnerable and being honest and being open, God knows your heart. He knows your intention. He knows your mindset. And even if you mean something, don't mean something, whatever, I always feel like there's certain, even like just in secular music alone, there's artists and there's people and there's this, that like, I mean, they could be talking about something crazy, right? I don't know if this is just me. I don't want this to come off as like me like making an excuse for it or me just trying to like justify it per se. But I feel like if I put it in its places in the sense of like music just in general is something that has like always been important to me, but especially like if I'm working out or whatever I'm doing, it's like an energy type of thing. So like if I'm outputting like energy into the gym. I want something that's gonna make me like get to that mode. And so a lot of times when I'm listening to certain things, most of these artists, it could be anybody, it could be any genre. I'm not living the lifestyle that they're talking about. How many successful artists do you know are just living this like suburban, quiet? You know, I go to Weiss, I come back. You know what I mean? Like you're not. No one would listen to you if you were just talking about normal stuff. You got to be talking about something crazy, for people to even listen.
And it's
to
just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
So like, I feel like I put it in his I put it in his place because I don't like try to absorb it. You know what I mean? It's, to me, sometimes I don't even hear. It's just like noise. In a way, I'm not even really hearing it.
I'm like me in middle school. Mom, I don't even listen to the words.
That's what I'm saying. Literally, like
she's like, Abby, there's no. I'm like, but really?
Yeah, I'm not listening. Like this. Okay, like if this artist is over here talking about, you know, going to the strip club and doing this and doing that, it's not gonna be like, hey, you know what, like, you know, because he said this, I think I'm gonna go here because he said this. Like, that's not how I'm influencing that. I can understand for a kid, you know, it's.
And I also think it matters like where you're at. Like, there's some people who can listen to that stuff and filter it, but at the same time, though, I will challenge you. I will say, because I think it seeps into your mind, and it might not be like I'm gonna act on this because of this, but like I know when I listen to certain music, I think I'm hot crap. You know what I mean? Like, can't no one touch me? I'm here, you're here. Like, especially in the gym, like, I'm gonna hit this and like nobody, like whatever. And so it just like, even though it's not leading me into like the exact types of sin that they're talking about in these songs, it elevates my pride, like just ever so slightly, you know, like just a little bit. So like, it's hard because I do agree with you. It's like, I'm at the point like spiritually where I feel like I can listen to things and I can be in environments where those things are going on and I'm not going to be like as influenced by it. And at the same time, I still have to like watch my heart sometimes to see how there's just like those slight, very slight, minuscule changes like over time, just a little bit. But
I agree with that. Like, for example, my dad, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. So I feel like, so for example, he'll go to a barbershop, right? Yeah. And if they're playing rap music, he's not going to that barbershop. Yeah. Like he he will literally not go. Like, or he'll be like, I really like this barber, but I hate the music. And I'm like, no, there was one time too, I'm putting myself out there, right? So my dad comes and visits the gym. He's like, and I know he's coming.
Oh gosh.
Man, that playlist changed up so quick.
They said,
as soon as I saw his car pull up in the gym parking lot, as soon as I saw him pull up in the parking lot, everybody listen to Brooklyn Tabernacle today. Everybody, cast and crowd, put it on. My dad's in the building, and he's like, no, I know you're not. Like, I know for a fact you don't have these people listening, because then people are looking at me like,
what is
this
on?
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm like, it's you know, or I'm like, top instrumental 2024 play, like
lo-fi beats.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, you know, we just play instrumentals because, you know, we want to get. So again, fighting with the flesh doing all that, everything has to be put in its place. Yeah. But bottom line, to answer your question, keeping the noise down, having God in your day-to-day, that's what's important. Yeah. That's what's important.
I will say too, I noticed as soon as I started coming to Hometown, I noticed that you only play clean versions of songs, which I really appreciated. Yeah. Like I noticed that instantly, because the songs that I hear are songs that I listen to, and then I was like, oh, and even at competitions, I'm pretty sure, like even at competitions, and I really respect that, because that, like, it makes a difference. People notice it, like, and I think it makes a subtle message, whether you intend to or not.
And truthfully, that is the intention, because I'll be honest with you. So when the gym first opened, I was not playing clean music, because I felt like in that moment I was taking away from, like, because it's like, it was sounding so, and then I was like, this is like, why am I doing this? And then as time went on, I would be I'm over here, because it's not just about being in the gym to work out. I'm running the gym. I'm cleaning the gym. I'm doing the day-to-day. And then I'm like sweeping, and I'm hearing something. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
my gosh.
And your kids are there sometimes?
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm thinking to
Yeah.
myself, I'm like,
You said it's 9 a.m.
I'm like, I don't, yeah, right? I'm like, I don't know if this is like, you know, and even like sometimes when I get to the gym and I first turn the music on when I get there, and I'm like, you just can't start the day out with some crazy
Meek Mill.
2 Chainz going on. I'm like, let me ease into the morning with like something light.
Yeah.
And then as the day goes on, you know, maybe pick it up a little bit. But the clean music, and like even with competitions, because I know that there's a lot of outside people from the gym coming in.
Yeah.
And when I first started just playing like all clean music, because with Spotify, you have the control of where you could turn off you could turn on and off I always mess up the word, the EXP word.
Yeah.
Exploitive. Explicit, whatever.
Explicit, yeah.
So.
Exploitive.
Like, you know, hey, can you cut that out? So the music that makes it like it's clean or dirty, whatever, right?
Yeah.
You could turn it on and off with Spotify. So with Spotify, I have it turned off, or turned on rather, so it doesn't play. Because what was
like
happening,
a filter.
what was happening, I didn't know this, but I would play like a clean playlist, and let's say it's an 8-hour playlist, but by the time, you know, it's a 24-hour gym, 24 hours, just in case you need that. It's a 24-hour gym, so after about 8 hours, you go in and it's like, that clean playlist been gone.
Done, yeah.
And now we're back to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, let's clean this up. So then I turn that on, and then even for competitions again, outside people, kids, all this stuff, it's like, to me, if you want that, you can get it your own, but it's like, I don't feel like I need to give it to you. And you probably know the fillers, so if you're gonna put it in there, that's on you, but I'm not gonna give you that at the very least. To me, that's like,
I think that's wise.
To me, that's like, it's hard because again, even being a Christian business owner in general, it's difficult because it's like, I can't put my personal beliefs on people and all that stuff. And I'm not even like that in general, to where I don't put myself on, like when people meet me, I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm Josh Paxton, I'm a Christian, and I want you to change your life today because whatever you're doing, you're wrong, and you need to change your life because da-da-da. That's not how I am as a person, so I'm not gonna be that way. Like that's not how my business is gonna be ran. I'm gonna treat every single person that walks in the door with respect. I'm gonna make sure that every person at any time is always respected and cared for when they're in the gym. Best Jim Frederick. And that's how I approach my, you know, just my business and everything like that. So when it comes to the music, to me, it's like, I'm gonna meet you halfway. That kind of mindset of like, I can at least make it clean. And
you could also put in your headphones and listen to whatever you want to listen to.
That too, you know what I mean? Because for some people, like when the gym first opened, I would have the music blasting every single day. Like I'm talking, you can't even hear yourself think. And I'm like, I can't take this anymore. So now the volume is at like a relatively like minimal level. And I feel like that's been the better version too of like people, like if you want to put your headphones on, like you put your headphones on. If you want to take them off, take them off. Completely up to you.
Well, and I think too, I think people sometimes they are looking for a relief sometimes from like the intensity of like the world and music and media. Like it's so like just put onto us all day, every day, that sometimes when you enter a space and it's not explicit and it's not like so loud, it's like, this is kind of nice. I didn't even know that I wanted to listen to this, you know? And so sometimes we want that little respite, whether we know it or not. And I always think about Christianity. Christianity is like countercultural, right? It's always going to be different than what the rest of the world is doing. And I think it's that part of it that makes people intrigued, that makes people like, why is this different? Why is this? And so I always like to live my life in certain ways where it's like, yeah, I can be around you. Like, I don't consider myself like a Christian who's like so far removed from the world, like that I don't know how to relate to people, that I don't know what's going on. Like in the general, like I want to be able to always like know what's going on so that I can relate to people and that like people can see that I'm not. I had someone at the gym be like, well, Abby's not a weird Christian. That's kind of cool, you know? And I'm like, yeah, that's my goal, is that like I can be in the world but not of it, right? Like the Bible talks about.
Yeah.
And so I think it's always interesting because you never know what conversations will come from that. Like, why did you choose to do this way? Or why do you choose to do this way? And so it's always, I hope that those conversations sometimes will spark interest in people about like, why do you run your business this way? Or why do you treat people this way? Or why is this your vision versus other gyms or other people treat people like X, Y, Z? You know what I mean? I think it's always...
I definitely know what you're saying, because I feel like I've always found that, I'm not going to necessarily say the best Christians, but for people who are the most devout Christians I've ever met are not the Christians who put Christian on their forehead, in the sense of you can know someone's Christian just by like, you can have a conversation with them and it's just so light and refreshing.
The Holy Spirit.
You're almost like, I already know. I don't even have to ask you, because I already know what it is.
Yeah.
Because usually people like that aren't not Christians. Like usually they're like, they are, but it's like, those are the people that can have the most impact and reach the most amount of people, because they're not so worried about, I have to shame you and everything that you're doing. I hate the way you're living your lifestyle, because one, that's not how God is. Yeah. And, you know, God is not, again, he's not a petty, he's not a shameful, he's not a, everything that you're doing is wrong. No, he's like a merciful and loving and graceful. And he wants you to want him, and he cares about the things that you care about, small or big. And when you take that approach as a Christian, to where I realize that I can impact hundreds of more people if my approach is more subtle, in the sense of, you're going to see how I live my life. I'm not going to put my opinions and whatever on you, but you may notice something different about how I carry myself, like how I talk or how I act or how this, and it's not me being like, I'm not sitting on this high horse by any means, because again, like, I'm going to be as grounded as possible when it comes to my approach and how I treat people. And again, and again, to me, it's like Christianity just in general, you have to think about it in some ways almost on like an elementary level of like, what grade do you teach?
Right now I do K through 5, but I've taught kindergarten and second grade.
So like the golden rule. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like treat people how you want to be treated, and like just bare bones respect people and, you know, give people that, and give people grace, because, you know, God has given us grace. And it's something that we need. So who are we as Christians to not give people that, you know what I mean? And it's so easy and quick to judge and do this and slander and gossip and, you know, just talk down on people. But I feel like we can make an impact by being different. And, you know, again, just kind of going against the grain of society a little bit and just doing our own thing and try to be, you know, God-driven in our approach. And it's such a better way to reach people, and people will hear you, because you're not talking down on them. You're talking on the same level, you know, and you're like, look, like, we're sinners, like by nature. We don't even have a choice. It doesn't matter how holy you may think you are. We're sinners. Like, we wake up in sin, we live in sin, we sleep in sin. It's just what it is. We're human beings. We weren't created to be perfect, but we can't use that as an excuse to not try to continuously. It's like, I always talk about it like in the metaphor of like the gym, right? Where it doesn't matter how good you look, how strong you are. You could be, you know, look at like Chris Bumstead, who's like, 5-time, 6-time Mr. Olympia, like, but he's not going to take more days off because he's the best at what he does. No, he's putting in even more time than someone who might need that level of work or whatever it is. Like, that's how it is with Christianity. It doesn't matter on where you are in your life. Like, we're never going to be this perfect mold, and God doesn't, that's not what he intended for us to be. Like, we're always going to be a work in progress, but it's about the heart and the intent and like what you're actually trying to do to better yourself and to better the people around you and to have pure intentions, because you could be dead wrong, but you could do it in like, I did this in like, you know, the way that I wasn't intending to hurt anybody, or I wasn't intending to whatever. But God sees that and he understands that. And, you know, we just have to always be in a state of asking for forgiveness. And again, trying to like work to be, we're always going to be a work in progress. And that's okay. You know, it's just understanding that makes it easier to me to be a Christian, is understand that, okay, like, I'm a Christian now, but dang, like, I'm still sad, or I'm still stressed, or I'm still this. And you're probably going to be maybe even more stressed, or even more, you're going to get more outside battles because you're walking with God.
Yeah, well, Ephesians 6 talks about, like, we don't fight against flesh and blood, but we fight against, like, spiritual forces and powers of darkness. Like, the enemy wants to extinguish whatever light you have, because he knows that it's powerful enough to draw people to God. And so when you really fully go in, it's like, yeah, you're welcoming in, like, all right, bring it, because Satan's not worried. If you're a lukewarm, like, he's not worried about you.
Right.
You're not making any, not making any impact, but like, you're not a threat to him.
Right.
Like, because he knows that like, you're just gonna, but once you take that step and really be like, all right, I'm all in, I'm gonna do what God wants to do. Well, now you're a threat to hell, right? And so now he's gonna come after you.
And he's working double time.
Yeah.
You know, he's working double time, so.
But you're right, we're never gonna be, that's a process of sanctification, right? We're never gonna be perfect until heaven, right? And that's what God invites us on in that journey, is that he doesn't just want it to be a one way, it's a relationship for the entire rest. I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, man, I'm 28. I was like, I'm going to be reading my Bible for the next 50 years. Like, you know what I mean? It's a long time to think about like how it's great as young that we're in our 20s and both have God, and so it's a much longer, lifelong relationship with him. But it's just crazy to think that this is just going to be a process that I'm going to go through for the next. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, and I'm going to learn things, and I'm going to be like sanctified. Even when I think like I can't get more refined than this, it's like, nope, there's always going to be something else that you can be refined in. And just loving God, love people, and see people the way that he sees them. I think about that at the gym sometimes. Like, I never know who I'm interacting with and whether they even know God or not, but like I can love them and see them how really God sees them.
You don't know who is it. I think about that all the time, because
never know.
In the last 18, 19 months, April will be 20 months since the gym has been open. The amount of people that I have spoken with, interacted to, talked on the phone, shook their hand, whatever. It's been a lot of it's so interesting to me. Like, by nature, I'm a big people person, social butterfly. Like, I love people, like I do. And so just understanding like the little, just from a basic standpoint, like whether it's like body language or demeanor or like even for you, right? Like, when you come into the gym, I feel like I can read your day without you even saying a word. It's just something I've picked up with just being in a space every day, all day, and seeing this like the same people and different people, and like you just know like people's ups, people's downs, people's this, people's that, and you don't even have to say anything to you. But I feel like that's kind of the beauty of it, and that's the reason on why I even like wanted to do this, not from the standpoint of like, okay, personally I love the gym, but I don't have to open up a gym to love the gym. I can just go work out. But in the same standpoint is, I love working out, but I also like love what it does for people, and like creating a space like that for people to where they can, come home and feel safe and be able to develop the discipline and the good habits and like all the things that it's done for me. And so, because like when I was a kid, actually beyond that, even when I was like early in high school, I used to want to be like, I was going to go to school to study theology, and I wanted to be a military chaplain. That was like a goal that I had for a while. And then I realized how much school it was, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not going to school for 8 years after high school. Like, there's no way I'm doing that. There's no way I'm doing that. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a Navy chaplain. I met a Navy chaplain when I was young, and I thought it was the coolest job in the world. I'm telling you, you get to go to like, they're in war zones, they're in this, they're in that. I thought about that with like NFL chaplain, like NBA chaplain, things like that. I'm like, that. Like, you have the best job. Like you're praying for players, and you're traveling with the team, and you're like, you're seeing all these cool things, but you're also kind of like an on the road type pastor. I felt like that was always cool. But the school, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you gotta be a doctor before even doing that. But aside from that, so it's like, how can I influence people from like, but also intermix my own passions and stuff with it. So that's how like it came up with the gym and stuff. So to me, like, sometimes it's kind of to a fault, but like I get overly invested in people, and almost to the point to where like I'm bringing people's problems home with me, because I'm over here showering thinking about how somebody got in a car accident, and like they're over here driving to the gym in a boot, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what I got to do with me? But it's like, that's just how I am. That's just how like I just, but that's again, it's the beauty of it. It's the beauty of like dealing with all these different people and problems, and seeing the good even in the bad, and trying to like, if I can boost somebody's day in the slightest, I'll try to do that, just because of, just the nature of it, right? But
Love that.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks, Josh. This has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. I think it's awesome to see it's been really cool to see just how you run your business, how you run yourself, and the way that God works through you in big ways and in small ways as well. And the influence that you have on people is very significant and very felt in the community, and it's needed. So I appreciate you being on this podcast. Any last words of advice? I'm sure you got something. You said, hold up.
Let me set up. So I don't know how much time I have on this, but if you've made it to the end, I just want to
lean in.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you for. Can you zoom in on me, please? I just want to say thank you for joining us on this beautiful journey. It's a Good Friday. It's Good Friday. And it's a Good Friday. Mm-hmm. Double entendre. And I just feel like, if you've made it to the end and you're here with me now, and if you're looking for a new gym home, just come check out Hometown Barbell, 5904 Enterprise Court, 24-hour gym. Can you bring it back to me? There's really nothing else that you need. 24-hour gym, I'm there, you know what I'm saying?
I'm there.
And come back to me, I'm there. And so, you know what I mean? Just like, let's have a conversation, you know what I'm saying? Bring me some coffee, Nitro Cold Brew 2 Splenda, or, just whatever God puts on your heart. Thank you for joining us today on the Masterpiece podcast. Look forward to interacting with you guys at the gym at a later date. And I hope you have a blessed weekend and happy Easter.
Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Masterpiece Ministries podcast. I pray that you feel encouraged after listening and are reminded of God's love for you and for his people. You are his masterpiece, created anew in Christ to do good works he has prepared for you. What will your story be? If this podcast has been helpful or encouraging to you, please share it with your people. You can follow us on Instagram or TikTok at masterpiece.ministries. See you next week for a new episode. Bye!